And the topic for analysis of aircraft structure of concept video for subject analysis of aircraft structure concept video is impact strength, and myself Tika from Aero-B section. When we take about the introduction of the impact strength is often the deciding factor in material selections. Many otherwise satisfactory plastics are rejected for engineering and other applications simply because they have a tendency towards brittle. The problem particularly concerns materials that would normally be considered ductile on the evidence of the tensile test as low or moderate strain rates. The designer should always be aware of possibility of brittle fracture in impact. Impact strength is often for the deciding factor in material selections. Many otherwise satisfactory plastics are rejected for the engineering and other applications simply because they have a tendency towards brittle. The problem particularly concerns materials that would normally be considered ductile with the evidence of the tensile test at a low or moderate strain rates. The designer should always be aware of the possibility of brittle fractures in impact. Definition of impact strength. Impact strength is also known as impact toughness. Impact strength is the amount of energy that a material can withstand when the set load is suddenly applied to it. It may also be defined as the threshold of the force per unit area before the material undergoes fracture. The impact strength of a material is defined as its capability to resist a sudden applied load or force. It is normally conveyed as the amount of the mechanical energy absorbed in the process of deformation under the applied impact loading and is experienced as energy lost per unit of thickness. Impact strength is used to determine whether material will act in a brittle or ductile manner when subjected to sudden applied loads. In a loose sense, it gives an idea of material toughness. Impact strength is also known as called as impact toughness. Impact strength is the amount of energy that a material can withstand when set loads is suddenly applied to it. It may be defined as a threshold of the force per unit area before the applied to it. It may also be defined as a threshold of the force per unit area before the material undergoes fracture. The impact strength of the material is defined as its capable to resist a sudden applied load or force. It's normally conveyed as the amount of mechanical energy absorbed in the process of deformation under the applied impact loading and is expressed as the energy lost per unit of thickness. Impact strength is used to determine whether a material will act in a brittle or ductile manner when subjected to a sudden applied loads. In a loose sense, it gives an idea of material toughness. Factors that affect impact strength of material. Factors that affect impact strength measurement include its volume, modulus of elasticity, yield strength, and the disturbance of the force through the material section. During well boring, the impact strength parameter is used to determine the tolerance of the casing to the rigors of installation and handling. Casing diameter, wall thickness, casing material properties, environmental temperatures are taken into the consideration when assessing the appropriate casing to be used in a given section. Impact strength of a material. Impact strength is the ability of a metal to be absorb collision energy while resisting cracking or fracturing. Impact strength is also known as toughness and is usually expressed in a foot-pounds or joules per meter. The resistance of a material to fracture by a blow, expressed in terms of amount of energy absorbed before fracture. This means measuring impact by making a comparison between what would have happened differently in the absence of certain output of estimating a cause-effect relationship. Ultimately, this way of looking at impact sees it as the extent to which an action has particular effect. Impact strength is the ability of metal to absorb collision energy while resisting cracking or fracturing. Impact strength is also known as the toughness and it's usually expressed in foot-pounds or joules per meter. Resisting a material to fracture by a blow in terms of energy absorbed before fracture. This means measuring impact by making a comparison between what would have happened differently in the absence of a certain output and estimating a cause of effect relationship. Ultimately, this is a way of looking at impact sees it as the extent to which an action has particularly effect. Impact strength affected by temperature. As can be demonstrated from the Charpy. From the Charpy impact test, toughness is certain, not constant for a given material, but varies largely with the temperature. At low temperature, many material requires significant levels of energy of cause fracture. Though, however, at low temperature, there are some material fracture with little impact energy. This phenomena is termed the ductile to brittle transitions and occurs abruptly at a material specific temperature, referred to as a transition temperature. Not all materials exhibit a ductile to a brittle transition temperature. However, those that must have a service temperatures higher than the transition temperatures if they have to be a subject to impact. Impact strength in plastics. Impact test significant toughness or impact strength of a material, that is the ability of the material to absorb energy during the plastic deformation. This energy absorption is directly related to the brittleness of the material. Results of impact test are expressed in the terms of the either amount of energy absorbed or impact strength of a material, that is ability of the material is absorbed during plastics deformation. This energy absorption is directly related to the brittleness of the material impact strength, Rahul, of a material, that is the ability of material to absorb energy during a plastic deformation. This energy absorption is directly related to the brittleness of the material. Strength is how much force is required before the material deforms. It tells us about the amount of load can be here. Impact strength formula. Impact strength is calculated by dividing impact energy in joules by the thickness of the specimen. The test results is typically by the average 5 specimens. ISO impact strength of the expressed in kg by meter to m2. Impact strength is calculated by dividing impact energy in J by the area under the notch. Impact strength of concrete. Concrete with a polystyrene streets or embankment gives average compressive strength of 59.3 MPa, tensile strength of 5.8 MPa, and impact strength which the first crack appears for the 1486 blows in at 28 using 0.85 meters of movement per 100 kg of blinder enhance of the concrete resistance to impact. The ductility and the strength measured by tensile test, rated hardness properties, and fracture toughness or impact resistance are the three most frequently required material properties. Impact resistance represents the ability of concrete to withstand repeated blows and absorb energy without adverse effect of cracking and spalling. Impact scenario can be classified into low velocity impact and high velocity impact. Impact strength formula is calculated by dividing impact energy in joules by the thickness of the specimen. The test results is typically averaged by the specimen. ISO impact strength is expressed in kg by meters to impact strength is calculated by dividing impact energy in joules by area of under the notch. Concrete by the polystyrene sheets of the measurement gives the average compressive strength of 59.3 MPa, tensile strength of 5.8 MPa, and impact strength when first crack appears was 1486 blows and 28 days using 0.85 of the measurement per 100 kg of the blinder. Enhance concrete resistance to impact. The ductility and the strength measured by the tensile test, related hardness properties of the fracture toughness or impact resistance are the three most frequently required material properties. Impact resistance represents the ability of the concrete to withstand repeated blows and absorb energy without adversive effect to the crackle and spalling. Impact scenario also can capture into low velocities and the high impact velocity. These are the reference links I have used to do my PPT of the topic impact strengths. Thank you.